Hello. Today we're here to talk about Thomas Jefferson and his State of the Union address of 1806. Um, so in order to fully appreciate U.S. history, one needs to take a closer look at the past presidencies of our founding fathers and analyze their contributions to this united nation. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most influential presidents in history and lectured about many prominent topics and issues within his sixth State of the Union address. Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13, 1743, in Albemarle County, Virginia. Being born into a white high-class family, Jefferson had the opportunity to inherit great land and get an exceptional education at the College of William and Mary. After strenuous hard work and dedication, he later became the third President of the United States and served 2 terms from 1801 to 1809. In 1806, however, he gave his annual State of the Union address and started off by mentioning the United States' relationship with Spain and France. Jefferson goes on and says, "Having received information that in another part of the United States a great number of private individuals were combining together, arming, and organizing themselves contrary to law to carry on a military expedition against the territories of Spain," he continues, "that while the public force was acting strictly on defensive and merely to protect our citizens from aggression, the criminal attempts of private individuals to decide for their country the question of peace or war by commencing active and unauthorized hostilities should be promptly and efficaciously suppressed." What Jefferson was saying basically was that all measures were going to be taken in order to completely put down any potential outbreaks or rebellions, any forms of violence against these occupied Spanish territories. Jefferson did not want any trouble with the Spanish, he wanted peace all around. He was trying to make it clear to the public by saying that a rebellion was not what the nation needed or wanted at that particular time in 1806. However, Jefferson was known for his idealistic philosophy, which said that rebellion sometimes is necessary. As mentioned by Jefferson himself to Abigail Adams in 1787, he declares, "I like a little rebellion now and then. It is like a storm in the atmosphere." He believed that a rebellion once in a while was healthy and even necessary for a country in order to serve as a wake-up call to the government so they could fix any problems at hand. Now Jefferson continues, "The possession of both banks of the Mississippi reducing to a single point the defense of that river, its waters, and the adjacent country, it becomes highly necessary to provide for that point a more adequate security. For the internal support of the country, the encouragement of a strong settlement on the western side of the Mississippi, within reach of New Orleans, will be worthy the consideration of the legislator." Within these few lines, basically, Jefferson mentions the Mississippi, the New Orleans, and he states his full intent to have the U.S. fully repossess both territories at one point. He makes it clear of his intention to keep the area very well secured as well. He goes on, "We continue to receive proofs of the growing attachments of our Indian neighbors and of their dispositions to place all their interests under the patronage of the United States. These dispositions are inspired by their confidence in our justice and in the sincere concern we feel for their welfare, and as long as we discharge these high and honorable functions with the integrity and good faith which alone can entitle us to their continuance, we may expect to reap the just reward in their peace and friendship." Now this is very important because he's establishing, he wants to establish friendship with these Native Americans, be peaceful with them because he knows and he thinks and knows it will benefit the United States. The Indians were constantly being neglected and forgotten in important documents. For example, the Articles of Confederation, they were basically completely left out, as if they didn't exist. Since the major conflicts between the Indians and Americans had ended years and years before, it's like they had, like I said, it was like the natives were practically forgotten. Jefferson said it was very, very important to establish a good relationship between the Americans and the Native Americans. In a biography on Jefferson, Jefferson himself said, Our system is to live in perpetual peace with the Indians, to cultivate an affectionate attachment from them by everything just and liberal which we can do from them within bounds of reasons, and by giving them effectual protection against wrongs from our own people. The author of this biography is basically supporting Jefferson's claim and saying how a relationship between the natives is very important in order to maintain peace. Jefferson then goes on to continue speaking. He continues to speak about Lewis and Clark and their exploration, and then the Red River exploration. He goes on and says, "The expedition of Mr. Lewis and Clark for exploring the river Missouri and the best communications from that to the Pacific Ocean has had all the success which could have been expected, and it is but justice to say that Mr. Lewis and Clark and their brave companions have by this arduous service deserved well of their country." In addition to this, he mentions, he continues to speak about the Red River, and in an article by Brandon Toropov and Ellen Woodger, they write about the Red River, and when you read Jefferson, what Jefferson said about the Red River excursion, you can tell there's a shift in tone from when he's talking about Lewis and Clark to when he's talking about Red River. He seems to get more disappointed, and basically he was very confident and enthusiastic when he was talking about Lewis and Clark and their great success, but then the shift in tone is very obvious as he speaks of how the Red River excursion was not nearly successful. However, no country is perfect, there's always faults, and he understands that. He goes on to say, Jefferson, he doesn't go on to say, Jefferson basically focused on keeping his country out of trouble. Like, regardless of any faults, he focused on maintaining respect for his country, and John Meekham mentions in his Jefferson biography, he writes, "Much of Jefferson's energy was spent striving to create international respect for the United States and to negotiate commercial treaties to build and expand American commerce and wealth. Jefferson wanted America to be respected." Now that's very important because that's what we needed for so long. Jefferson just wanted America to be acknowledged as a legitimate nation. He wanted respect from foreign nations, and that's exactly what America needed, respect, to be considered a legitimate nation, because 13 states, some people wouldn't consider that a country, but at this point they were unified, they were strong, and John Meehan goes on to explain how respect is what Jefferson wanted and was continually striving for. As Jefferson comes to a close on his speech, he says, "Our duty is, therefore, to act upon things as they are, and to make reasonable provision for whatever they may be. Were armies to be raised whenever a speck of war is visible on our horizon, we never should have been without them. A steady, perhaps a quickened pace in preparation for the defense of our seaports, towns, and waters. A militia so organized that its effective portions could be called to any point in the Union, or volunteers, instead of them to serve a sufficient time, are means which may always be ready." So basically, in his concluding paragraphs, Jefferson is just reassuring the citizens of the U.S., telling them that they will always be protected. There will always be an army and a militia there to protect them, to raise up when they need them. Meekham mentions he was focused and clear-headed, and again, Jefferson wanted to gain respect for America. That was the main point. Jefferson started and finished his presidency with the intention to gain the respect that America deserved and needed and wanted. He was a significant aspect of the building of America and the United States of America. He was a huge contribution to the foundation and what we are today. He was just a very significant character of history.